Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something I've learned after years of listening, observing, and living life as a man. A lot of women ask, why doesn't he listen to me? Or why does he pull away when I'm just trying to express myself? And the truth is, it's not always what you say, it's how you say it. The way you talk to a man can either make him feel like a king or make him shut down completely. Ladies and gentlemen, let me slow this thing down and talk to you real plain, because this first key note right here will change everything if you truly understand it. Men respond most to respect, not pressure or control. That sentence alone explains why so many relationships struggle, why communication breaks down, and why good intentions still lead to distance. A lot of women think love is proven by effort, reminders, questions, and emotional urgency. But to a man, too much pressure doesn't feel like love. It feels like failure. See, from the time a man is young, the world teaches him one thing over and over again: perform, achieve, handle it. Don't complain. His value is tied to what he can do, what he can fix, and what he can provide. So when he's with a woman, the fastest way to his heart is not trying to manage him, improve him, or constantly correct him. The fastest way is making him feel respected for who he already is and trusted for who he's becoming. Respect to a man is not silence, and it's not submission. Respect is how you speak when you're disappointed. Respect is how you approach him when something isn't right. Respect is letting him feel like he's still the man in your eyes, even when he's falling short. The moment a man feels talked down to, compared to others, or treated like a child, something inside him shuts off. He may stay physically, but emotionally he starts packing his bags. Pressure sounds like constant questioning. Why didn't you do this? When are you going to change? How come you never? And even if those questions are valid, the way they land on a man's spirit feels like an audit. He feels like he's always on trial, always defending himself, always coming up short. And a man who feels like he can never win with you eventually stops trying. Control feels like instructions disguised as love, telling him how to think, how to react, how to fix things your way, on your timeline. You may call it helping, but he hears it as, you're not capable, and no man falls deeper in love with a woman who makes him feel incapable. He may comply for peace, but compliance is not devotion. Now let me tell you what respect sounds like. Respect sounds calm. It sounds clear. It sounds confident. It sounds like a woman who knows her worth and doesn't need to dominate a conversation to be heard. When you speak to a man with respect, even about something serious, you create a space where he can show up as his best self instead of his most defensive self. A respected man listens differently. His shoulders relax. His ego doesn't have to armor up. His heart stays open. And when a man's heart is open, he starts wanting to please you. Not because he's scared of losing you, but because he values your opinion. That's the difference between pressure and influence. Influence comes from respect. When you say, I trust you, you give a man something powerful to live up to. When you say, I know you figure this out, you activate his sense of purpose. Men want to be the man that woman believes they are. But when you constantly remind him of what he's not doing, he starts seeing himself through that lens instead. Let me say this clearly. You can express needs without stripping respect. You can be honest without being harsh. You can be strong without being aggressive. A woman who communicates from emotional stability instead of emotional overflow becomes magnetic to a man. He starts craving her presence because being around her doesn't feel like work. It feels like peace, and peace is everything to a man. The world already challenges him. Life already demands from him. When home or love feels like another battlefield, he will retreat, not because he doesn't care, but because he's exhausted. Respect turns love into a safe place. Pressure turns love into an obligation. When a man feels respected, he wants to protect. He wants to provide. He wants to prove himself worthy of that respect. But when he feels controlled, he rebels or withdraws. That's why so many men seem distant when women are trying the hardest. It's not the effort, it's the energy behind it. A confident woman doesn't hover. She doesn't chase. She doesn't demand reassurance every 5 minutes. Her words say, I choose you, but I don't need to control you. And that kind of woman stays on a man's mind long after the conversation ends, because respect makes him feel like a man, not a project. So if you want a man to lean in instead of pulling away, start with respect. Speak to him like you believe in him. Talk to him like you see his potential, not just his mistakes. Remove the pressure, drop the control, and watch how differently he shows up. A man who feels respected will move heaven and earth just to keep that feeling alive. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you deeper into this second key note, because this is where words stop being casual and start becoming powerful. The right words activate a man's purpose and his pride. And when you understand this, you stop talking just to be heard and start speaking in a way that moves something inside him. Men are wired around purpose. If a man doesn't feel useful, capable, or meaningful in your life, his emotional connection slowly weakens, even if he cares about you. A man wants to feel like he matters. Not just that he's wanted, but that he brings value. That's why the words you choose are so important. When you speak in a way that highlights his role, instead of minimizing it, you awaken something deep in him. You remind him of who he is when he's at his best. And a man will chase the version of himself that feels strong, respected, and proud. Now, here's where many women get it twisted. They think love is about pointing out everything that's wrong so it can be fixed. But men don't feel motivated by constant correction. They feel motivated by vision. When you talk to a man like he's already capable, he starts acting like it. When you talk to him like he's falling short, he starts believing that's all you see. Words that activate a man's purpose are words that recognize purpose, are words that recognize effort, even when results aren't perfect. Saying, I see how hard you're trying does more than you realize. It tells him his work isn't invisible. It tells him you notice the load he carries. That kind of acknowledgement feeds his pride in a healthy way. It makes him want to do more, not because he's pressured, but because he feels appreciated. Pride in a man isn't about ego the way people think. Pride is about dignity. It's about feeling like he stands tall in your eyes. When a woman speaks to a man with admiration, even quietly, it creates emotional attachment. Men remember how you make them feel about themselves. Long after the words fade, the feeling stays. A woman who knows how to speak to a man's purpose doesn't say, you never step up. She says, I feel safest when I know I can count on you. That one sentence invites him into his masculine role instead of shaming him for not fulfilling it. One approach challenges his identity, the other inspires it. Men want to feel like leaders in some way, even if that leadership looks different for each man. When you use language that honors his decision-making, his problem-solving, his ability to protect and provide in his own way. You strengthen the bond in his own way. You strengthen the bond. Simple phrases like, "What do you think?" or "I trust your judgment," carry more weight than long emotional speeches ever could. And let me be clear, this doesn't mean silencing yourself. It means choosing words that build instead of break. You can express disappointment without dismantling his pride. Disappointment without dismantling his pride. You can talk about problems without attacking his manhood. The difference is whether your words are meant to connect or control. When a man feels his pride is constantly under attack, he becomes guarded. He stops sharing his thoughts. He stops opening up. But when he feels his pride is protected, he opens his world to you. He lets you see his fears, his dreams, his insecurities. That level of emotional access only comes when he feels safe from judgment. The right word. This also give a man a sense of direction. Men like knowing where they stand. Vague complaints confuse them. Clear, respectful language motivates them. Saying, "I need more consistency from you," is different from saying, "You're unreliable." One gives him a target. The other gives him a label. Men will work toward a target, but they will resist the label. A woman who speaks with intention understands that encouragement fuels action. Men rarely hear encouragement. That society praises outcomes, not effort. So when a woman becomes the voice that recognizes progress, she becomes irreplaceable. Her words become a source of strength. He starts associating her with motivation, clarity, and confidence. And here's something important. Timing matters. A man is more receptive to words that activate his pride when he doesn't feel cornered. When he doesn't feel cornered. Choosing calm moments instead of heated ones allows your words to land instead of bounce off his defenses. The same sentence said with patience carries more power than one said in frustration. When you speak to a man like you believe in his future, he starts seeing that future more clearly. Your words become part of his internal dialogue. He starts asking himself if he's living up to the man you see. That's influence. That's emotional impact. That's how you stay on his mind without saying much at all. A woman who understands this doesn't beg for effort. She inspires it. She doesn't chase commitment. She communicates in a way that makes commitment feel natural. Her words don't drain a man. They energize him. They remind him that being with her makes him better, stronger, and more grounded. When you activate a man's purpose and pride with the right words, you don't have to push him. He moves on his own. He invests emotionally because he feels valued, not managed. He shows up because he wants to, not because he's afraid of losing you. And that shift changes everything about how he connects, communicates, and commits. Ladies and gentlemen, this third keynote is where a lot of people get uncomfortable, but it's also where real power lives. Calm confidence is more powerful than emotional chasing. Let me tell you something straight. Desperation has a sound, and confidence has a sound. And confidence has a sound. And men can hear the difference. Even when the words are the same, you can say, "I care about you," from a place of fear, or you can say it from a place of strength, and the emotional impact will be completely different. Emotional chasing looks like over-explaining your feelings, repeating yourself, sending long messages, trying to get clarity, and pushing for reassurance when silence shows up. And I know why women do it. It's not because they're weak. It's because they're invested. But to a man, chasing energy doesn't feel like love. It feels like pressure. It makes him feel like he's responsible for regulating your emotions. And most men don't know how to do that without shutting down. Calm confidence, on the other hand, feels steady. It feels grounded. It feels like a woman who knows what she wants but doesn't lose herself trying to get it. When you speak calmly, even when you're emotional inside, you signal self-control. And self-control is attractive. It tells a man, I'm choosing you, but I'm not losing myself for you. Men are drawn to emotional stability because it represents peace. And peace is what men are searching for, even if they don't know how to say it. A woman who doesn't panic at distance, who doesn't explode at silence, and who doesn't collapse when things feel uncertain becomes unforgettable to a man because she feels different from chaos. Now listen carefully. Calm confidence does not mean you don't care. It means you trust yourself enough not to beg for validation. It means you can express your feelings without letting them control you. When you say what you feel once, clearly, and then allow space, a man starts thinking. And when a man starts thinking, he starts feeling. Chasing removes mystery. Calm confidence creates it. When you keep explaining, justifying, and pushing, you leave no room for him to process. But when you speak calmly and then step back, he fills that silence with thoughts about you. He replays your words. He wonders where he stands. That's not manipulation. That's emotional intelligence. Men are naturally drawn to what feels secure and self-assured. When a woman reacts emotionally to every shift, every delay, every change in tone, it signals fear of loss. And fear, no matter how understandable, weakens attraction. Confidence signals abundance. It says, I'll be okay with or without this, but I like it with you. That energy changes how a man shows up. A calm woman doesn't raise her voice to be heard. She doesn't threaten to leave to be valued. She doesn't compete for attention. Her presence alone speaks. When she talks, her words carry weight because she doesn't use them excessively. Silence, when used with confidence, is not punishment, it's clarity. Let me tell you something most people won't say. Men test emotional strength, not intentionally, but instinctively. They observe how you handle uncertainty. They notice whether you collapse under stress or remain grounded. A woman who stays composed during emotional moments earns respect, and respect deepens attraction far more than emotional intensity ever could. Calm confidence also means knowing when to stop talking. There is power in letting a conversation end without forcing resolution immediately. Men need time to process emotions internally. When you rush that process with words, you interrupt it. When you allow space, you support it. And support feels like understanding to a man. A woman, one would hold, doesn't chase, also doesn't withdraw emotionally in anger. She doesn't play games. She doesn't punish with silence. She simply holds her boundary with grace. She says what she means what she says, and then allows actions to speak. That kind of emotional maturity is rare, and rarity creates value. When a man senses that a woman is centered within herself, he becomes more careful with her heart. He knows she won't tolerate inconsistency forever, but she also won't lose dignity reacting to it. That balance makes him step up or step aside. Either way, clarity is created. Calm confidence also changes the tone of conflict. Instead of arguments escalating, conversations slow down. Instead of emotional chaos, there is emotional direction. Men feel safer engaging when they don't feel attacked or overwhelmed. And safety is the doorway to emotional closeness for a man. Here's the truth. You don't have to chase a man who feels your strength. You don't have to convince a man who respects your self-control. The more you regulate your emotions, the more he regulates his behavior. Your calm becomes a mirror he starts responding to. A woman who embodies calm confidence doesn't ask for attention, she attracts it. She doesn't demand consistency, she expects it. Her words are fewer, but they are intentional. And when she speaks, a man listens because he knows she's not speaking from fear, but from self-worth. That's why calm confidence drives a man crazy in the deepest way. Not chaotic obsession, but steady desire. The kind that grows in silence, deepens in reflection, and stays rooted in respect. Ladies and gentlemen, this fourth keynote is where everything comes together, because how you speak can either inspire devotion or create distance. And most people don't realize how small moments of communication slowly shape a man's emotional direction. It's not always the big arguments that push a man away. It's the tone, the timing, and the intention behind everyday words. Men are constantly listening for one thing beneath what you say. Am I safe here? Or am I under attack? A man may not say it out loud, but his nervous system feels it. When your words feel like judgment, comparison, or disappointment without understanding, his instinct is to protect himself by pulling back. Distance is not always rejection. Sometimes it's self-preservation. When a woman speaks in a way that makes a man feel emotionally unsafe, even unintentionally, he starts limiting access to his inner world. He shares less. He explains less. He becomes more surface level. And many women misread that as him not caring anymore, when in reality he's conserving emotional energy. Devotion grows when a man feels emotionally seen without being emotionally exposed. That means your words acknowledge his effort, his struggle, and his intention, not just the outcome. When a man feels like his heart won't be used against him later, he opens it more fully. And a man who opens emotionally becomes deeply attached. Distance grows when conversations feel like scorekeeping, when past mistakes are constantly brought up, when progress is ignored, and when growth is never enough. A man begins to feel like no matter what he does, he's already failing your eyes. And once that belief settles in, motivation disappears. Inspiration sounds different from correction. Inspiration says, I know you're capable. Correction says, you're not doing enough. One makes him rise, the other makes him retreat. Men will work tirelessly for a woman who makes them feel capable and respected, but they will emotionally disconnect from a woman who only sees what's missing. Another thing that creates devotion is consistency in how you speak. When your words align with your behavior, trust is built. Hearing your tone changes depending on mood, stress, or fear. A man feels unstable ground beneath him. He doesn't know which version of you he'll get, so he stays guarded. A woman who inspires devotion doesn't use words as weapons. She doesn't speak to wound, to win, or to dominate. She speaks to connect. Even when she's upset, her intention is clarity, not control. And intention is something men feel immediately, even if they can't articulate it. Distance also grows when a woman speaks from resentment instead of resolution. When unspoken expectations pile up and finally explode, the words come out heavy and loaded. A man feels blindsided, confused, and defensive. He doesn't hear the message. He hears the emotion behind it. And that emotion tells him danger. Devotion grows when a woman expresses needs in real time without accusation. When she says what she feels without attaching blame. This allows a man to respond instead of react. Response creates connection. Reaction creates conflict. Let me say this clearly. Men bond through emotional safety, not emotional intensity, not constant talking, not dramatic expression. Safety. When a man knows that coming to you won't cost him his dignity, he comes more often. He shares more deeply. He commits more fully. The way you speak during disagreement matters more than the disagreement itself. If your words communicate respect, even in conflict, you strengthen the bond. If your words communicate contempt, sarcasm, or superiority, you weaken it. Men, don't forget how you made them feel in moments of vulnerability. A woman who inspires devotion also knows when to pause. She doesn't force closure when emotions are high. She allows space for reflection. And space, when given without hostility, becomes healing. Men process internally. When you allow that process instead of interrupting it, you become a place of understanding rather than pressure. Distance grows when a man feels like he can never fully relax around you. When he feels monitored, evaluated, or emotionally managed. Inspiration grows when he feels accepted while still encouraged. That balance makes a man want to stay, grow, and invest. Your words shape the emotional climate of the relationship. If the climate feels warm, safe, and respectful, devotion grows naturally. If the climate feels tense, unpredictable, or critical, distance becomes a coping mechanism. A woman who understands this doesn't try to force closeness. She creates an environment where closeness feels natural. She speaks with awareness. She chooses her moments. She understands that love isn't just about being heard, it's about being felt. And that's the truth right there. How you speak doesn't just express emotion, it directs it. It either pulls a man closer to you or quietly teaches him how far away to stand.